Happy 2019, everyone. This is NLPS Ed Talks. Today, we are speaking with the Superintendent and CEO of Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools, Scott Saywell. He's a fantastic individual. I get to work with him every day. He's going to be sharing a little bit about where he grew up, where did he go to university, some of his hobbies, what does he like to do outside of the district, and of course, a little bit about his band and maybe some of his favorite songs. We're going to be talking about that. On the latter part of the podcast, we're going to be talking about what's coming up for 2019 and what's going to be coming up for the district in the coming years. We're going to talk a little bit about reconciliation. We'll talk about the learning framework and some of the great programs for all the students here in the district. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. This is NLPS Ed Talks, a podcast brought to you by Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools. I'm Dale Burgos, the Executive Director of Communications, and I'll be sharing conversations with students, staff, and friends of the district. We'll learn, we'll laugh, we may cry, but most importantly, we'll share the unique stories of individuals that work and play in our school system. Nanaimo Ladysmith Public Schools is one of many school districts in British Columbia, Canada, and is centrally located in one of the most beautiful places in the world, Vancouver Island. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to WKRP in Cincinnati. I had to try it.
That's a great start.
It's an oldie but a goodie. I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Welcome. This is very exciting. We are on number 7 of the NLPS Ed Talks podcasts, and we've had some good ones. We've got some good responses from our past ones, and we're kicking off 2019 with our superintendent and CEO because he's got a lot of things to share with us. We'll get to that a little bit later on about what's going on in the district. But let's go back now. Let's go back a number of years. All right, shall we, son?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. Now, you are a product of Nanaimo.
Happy to say so.
Happy to say so. I love it. Where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Duncan, but moved here to Nanaimo when I was 10 years old. And so we moved to Cinnabar Valley. One of the first houses in Cinnabar Valley, so it was just being developed. And I went to Chase River Elementary when I was in grade 5.
Okay.
And
it was open already?
Chase River, yeah. Now, Cinnabar Valley wasn't.
Oh, Cinnabar Valley,
but,
of course. Right, yeah.
Chase River, yeah. We lived at the bottom of the valley, so it was quite a hike to school. Right. But I rode my bike, and I remember that quite well.
I could just picture that. Little Scott Saywell on his bike. Banana seat bike?
I'm sure.
I love it. I had one of those. I wrecked it completely on one of those ramp jumps I did. So right from K to, was it a K to 6 school at the time, or was it K
to 7?
Okay.
But in grade 6 and 7, I went to South Wellington.
Okay.
So it was quite a hike to the top of the valley, and then we got a bus and went to South Wellington.
Okay.
I'm guessing it. Now I remember the bus driver, Dale. Oh, what a great guy he was.
Good name.
Yeah, he's retired now, of course. Retired a few years ago, but I remember him quite well because that bus ride must have been 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and South Wellington was a great little school, and I enjoyed it.
I love it.
My time there, yeah.
So after South Wellington, you move over to.
Cinnabar Valley. We were bused to. I went to Cedar Junior at the time.
Oh.
So back then, NDSS was the only sort of high school. So we had junior highs back then, and I went to ND. For grades 11 and 12. But so Cedar Junior Secondary for grades 8 to 10.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
When we went for a tour, I went for a walk with you around NDSS, and you showed me your grad pic.
Mm-hmm.
Great, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
There's Scott Saywell.
Yeah.
Sitting in the third row, standing in the third row.
Yeah, I was about 5'2" in grade 12, and you could barely see me in that grad photo. But,
you finally grew up.
a little bit, yeah. Not much, but a little bit.
I love it. I feel like I can get away with a lot more now that we're being recorded on a podcast here. So I'm gonna bug you a little bit more, I think, than usual, because normally you shouldn't do that with your boss, right? But here we go. So 11 and 12, NDSS. Some highlights, some experiences that you want to share. Something good.
Geez, we're gonna get into it now. I was a little challenged in grade 11 and 12 because, and this might be well, I'm going to get deep now. This might be why I found myself for most of my career teaching in alternate programs or working with vulnerable youth. My parents divorced when I was in grade 10, and that had an effect on me. I lived with my dad in the end of grade 10, 11, and 12, and I struggled through high school, and so high school was a challenge for me. And up until that point, I was a pretty good student. I did well, but I think it's suffice to say how even a divorce, but a divorce in a family can really change the dynamic for a family, and certainly for student success. So I think that's why I was drawn ultimately to working in alternate programs, and I've sort of spent my career doing that, hopefully championing the at-risk student. So high school was a bit of a challenge for me. Yeah.
Okay. It all makes sense now, giving that background, because a big focus of ours right now is our learning alternatives.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But thanks for sharing that, Scott.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's so grade 12. You graduated in what year?
1981.
1981. Okay. So you've explained a little bit why you got into education. What was it? Do you remember that turning point in your life that made you decide, this is my calling. I need to do this?
Education's, well, I had a few careers I thought I was going into. I originally I got a biology degree. I went to Mount Allison University, and it was a good time for me to get out of Nanaimo as well. And I had an uncle who worked at Mount Allison University in Sackville, New Brunswick, and he became my mentor. I went to Mount A, as it's called, and followed in his footsteps and got a biology degree. I had a couple plans that fell through. I thought at one point I was going to be a doctor of all things. Wow. And I don't know what happened to that. And then maybe a dentist, and then I really followed, I think, what I was made to do. I've been coaching soccer for a while, young kids in soccer for a few years, and in summers I would do that out of Moncton, New Brunswick, and that's kind of what made me happy. So I had an epiphany at some point and said, well, I'm going to go get my teaching degree, and I did a few years after I graduated with my biology degree, and the rest is kind of history.
Also at Mount A?
Yeah, I went back to Mount A. I came home for a little bit and worked a few jobs, worked at the hospital and worked at, I got into fitness a little bit, and so worked at some gyms and so on. And then went back, did my education degree, and then stayed in the Maritimes for about 10 years.
Nice.
Sort of on and off altogether, but taught for a few years out there as well, just outside Halifax, a place called Truro, Nova Scotia.
Nice. At
Cobequid Educational Center, quite large high school, and then as it does, the West Coast kind of draws you back eventually, and so I came back here in 1994.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. What a journey, coast to coast, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so that's a little bit of now. If you didn't take education, was there ever something, another calling that you think you had? You mentioned that you might, you thought about being a doctor. Was there maybe something else? If you weren't what you're doing now, what would you be doing?
I had designs to be a professional soccer player at one point, and that dream fell through, I guess. I had a little opportunity to play professional, but back in the mid '80s, professional soccer players were getting paid. They weren't getting paid anything, actually.
Right.
And the truth is, I wasn't good enough ultimately, but I followed that for a little while, and
right.
And then reality struck me, and that's when I went back into education. What else? Well, you know what? years ago as well. Maybe I've really enjoyed music, and I've played in this local band for a while, and
Yes.
I think music could have been a career, but again, I'm not that great. I've just played for a long time, so it certainly is my passion. But and I guess that's everyone's dream if you can turn your passion into an occupation. I think you've made it.
It's never too late, Scott.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I keep playing.
Yeah, keep doing it.
I'm waiting to get discovered.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, maybe at one point we'll get you back on here, play a couple songs, play a couple ditties,
Absolutely, I will. Yeah.
and we'll put you out there. Small town guy makes it big. I love it. Maybe you can start out by making our jingle.
Yeah, let's work on that. Yeah.
NLPS Ed Talks. Something, I don't know. That was terrible, but I'll leave it to the professionals on that one. Okay, so university, we're done. Now you've got married, had kids?
Yes, I did get married and have a couple kids. Both my kids go to ND, so the school I graduated from, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
My daughter will graduate this year, and my son is in grade 9.
I love it.
Yeah, they love it there. It's a great school. All of our schools are great, of course.
Of course.
But yeah, they're enjoying it. And the big question for my daughter is now, grade 12. What's she going to get into? And she kind of likes volleyball, and she's been asked to play at VIU. So I think she's going to VIU.
You've talked a little bit about what you do on the side. It's nice to know who the people are. I mean, we've had people that came on the podcast here, and somebody like Nancy Ketchen, for example, from HR, and she culls bullfrogs, American bullfrogs.
Mm-hmm.
Have another teacher who works with kids on anxiety and different pieces. It's great. Let's know a little. Let's find a little bit more about you. Other than, of course, the singing, soccer. You've done that. What other hobbies do you have?
Geez, well, I paint a little bit, but isn't that a great thing about this profession, that you get to bring yourself to work? I always like that about teaching, right? So I would bring my guitar when I was certainly working in alternate programs. I would bring my guitar into class, and the kids love it, and
Nice.
we would play and sing, and we would make a connection that way. And it's really is the beauty of the profession. Everyone in this profession gets an opportunity to bring themselves to work with all of their gifts. And so I paint a little bit. I read. That's
Right.
kind of it. I like to spend time with my kids, of course, when I can, and they're into sports. So up until the last couple of years, I've had a hand in coaching them, so I've
Nice.
enjoyed that in soccer. So, that's some of the things I'm sort of interested
I
in.
like it.
Yeah.
Let's. You mentioned some painting, so I'm assuming not crayons on paper. We're talking like acrylics. Or are we talking? What's your style?
I don't have a style, and I've worked with. I like to engage some local artists. Bob Brooks, of course, you know.
Yes.
So I've done some work with Bob and
Former principal, right?
Yvonne Vanderkoy, who's a really excellent artist in town. I've done some work with her, and it's one of those things that I do when I have a little bit of time.
Right.
You know.
Yes. We should get some of that up on the walls here.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, let's
maybe,
do that.
Maybe not.
I love it. That's.
I'm not good. I just enjoy it.
It's all up.
It's nothing you want to see
in the eye of the beholder. Is that what the saying is?
That's absolutely correct.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't really tell you if it was bad or good, I guess, right?
You just tell me it's good.
we say it as it is. Music obviously is a big part of your life, and I mean, I'd like to know who's your favorite band, all-time favorite.
Oh well, first thing that comes to mind is I enjoy the Eagles, Counting Crows. I heard Blue Rodeo on the way to work this morning, and
Okay.
I hadn't heard Blue Rodeo in a little bit, but those types of bands.
Okay, yeah, it was good. Actually, we went to visit a school one day, and I get in. This is a quick story here, Scott. And I get in, and radio's on full blast when we get in, and Taylor Swift's playing. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Funny stuff.
Funny stuff. I'm kidding, Scott. I
One Direction I like as well.
One Direction.
I listen to
Zayn.
Zayn. Yeah.
Zalis. Is that One Direction? One of them? I don't know. Let's Google
Sounds
it.
right.
Yeah, probably.
Sounds right. But I listen to the stuff my kids listen to as well.
Of course. So do I.
Marcus gets into this rap stuff, which is a bit challenging for me. But
okay. Yeah.
My daughter Jaden kind of likes country, and so I've been listening to that. She's introducing me to some stuff I wouldn't normally listen to. So I listen to all kinds of stuff. Don't you?
I do
yeah.
too.
What do you listen to?
Well, I mean, geez, when the kids are in the car, it's usually the top 40. Right?
Yeah.
We just listen to whatever's popular right now. Although my one of my kids is getting into a little bit of rock, classic rock. And, he's in the shower, and all of a sudden I start hearing some Buffalo Springfield, and I mean,
for what it's worth?
Yeah, well, I guess, I don't know if that would be classic rock, but it would definitely be, one of those earlier versions of it anyways. And it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you hear Ozzy Osbourne playing.
Yeah.
Right? Crazy Train. What's going on, right? Gotta love it, though. That's all the good stuff. Favorite song? Is there a song out there
I don't know. It's typically the song I'm working on. So, here's something you don't need to know. The acoustics in my bathroom are great, so that's where I'm usually playing. And so I just had this image of whatever song, and I play it to death, so I get tired of it eventually. But
right.
So if I'm learning a song for the band, then that's my favorite song at the time. And then a couple weeks later, I typically hate it because I've overplayed it.
So you got the guitar in the bathroom?
There's an image, yeah. Guitar in the bathroom playing away.
I could just hear it. Kids knocking on the door.
Dad, that's exactly it.
Need to shower. Dad, it's not like that IKEA commercial, right? Dad doesn't care. He's just going in there.
The acoustics are great. They're come on over and we.
Yeah, right. We should have did the podcast over there.
Next time.
Okay, I love it. That's great. Thank you for sharing a lot of your history there. It's always nice to know some of the things that make up the people that work here in the district. I'd really like to move on now and take some time and talk about what we're doing as a district. It's 2019 now. We've got some great things going on. I'm fortunate enough to be a part of that and seeing it firsthand. And right now, I think the big thing for me is really in what we're calling the Saywell Reconciliation Policy and Framework. That's a big piece right now, of course, following the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations. And we've been doing great work in the district already when it comes to reconciliation, Aboriginal education. But I'd really like your take on why the focus, where we're going with it.
Well, that of course is top of mind. We haven't done well by our Indigenous students for a long time, forever, frankly. And I'm happy to say that our Indigenous grad rate jumped last year by 10%. So we are closing that achievement gap, but it's going to take a lot of work, right? And what this CASS policy proposes that we're governed by the policies and the leadership in the district, our board of trustees, and what this does is puts into our framework, our governance, this idea that we need to treat each other a little bit differently. And the policy itself really speaks to the importance of the land and the culture and the language. And so, as you know, Dale, I've been doing my best to learn Hulkaminam, and so we have someone teaching the senior management team Hulkaminam. And we're trying to learn more than just simple greetings, and right. It's important to do that, and it's important to recognize the traditional territory that we're on. We're trying to go deeper, and so I've been on this sort of personal journey to understanding the what I would call the plight of Indigenous people for quite some time, and I think it takes some time to reconcile between what I would call sort of academic knowledge of cultural genocide and the history of Indigenous people to a more maybe a heartfelt understanding. And so that connection between the heart and the mind, I think, is really critically important. So what this framework proposes to do is hopefully infect every single student and every staff member in the district in a way that would have us talking about these issues in a real heartfelt way. And so this is the journey we're on. And we've been in this consultation process for a little bit because that's what you do when you put something into policy. And so we've been doing this traveling committee show, engaging our educational partners, our First Nations partners, Métis partners, Tillicum Lalem, and we have all of these people represented on doing this committee work as well. So we have knowledge keepers from the 3 land-based First Nations, Snaminis, Nanawas, and Nanaimo, as well as Mid-Island Métis representation and Tillicum Lalem Friendship Center. So these are the people who are really steering this for us, and so I like to think we're walking hand in hand in this work, and I'm certainly not leading the work. We have our Indigenous partners doing this for us. So this is big stuff for the school district, and I'm really proud of that work, and lots of work ahead, but the reality is it took us 150 years to get to where we are now, and it's going to take us a little time so that our Indigenous students are on par with our non-Indigenous students in success, achievement rates, participation rates. But I think there's some shifting momentum. The BCTF is all over this work, of course, and promoting it, and our principal groups as well really understand this work. Our parent groups, who are also involved in the committee. It just feels like a groundswell to me.
Yes, so, I agree, definitely.
Yeah, so that's really important work in the school district right now. But there's all kinds of things that are pressing, right? And not the least of which is our new transformed curriculum, right? And key to that is the idea of, and that's, by the way, I mean, that's how we improve learning for kids, right? It's in the classroom. And so my job is to somehow influence teachers in some way, from afar, of course, but and we do that by setting policy and direction and strategic planning and building a culture where teachers and support staff can achieve greater success for kids. But yeah, there's lots to do. We're a growing district, of course, and one of our challenges going forward is accommodating these new students. So we're designing new, beautiful learning spaces. A couple years ago, you might have called them portables, but brighter with larger windows and better furniture and technology and HVAC systems. And so if that's what we're sort of forced to do, which is add these learning spaces to, that's the immediate future of how we're going to accommodate students in classes, then we're going to make them really nice.
Yes.
So and we're refurbishing a lot of our portables as well, and we have a refurbishing program going on where we have students doing the work alongside our QP members.
That's
and
right. Great partnership.
Great partnership.
Yep.
So I'm pretty excited about that as well. That program will continue for the foreseeable future as well. So
I've seen some of the renderings of the learning studios, and gone are the days of the 4-wall portable, right? with a door and maybe one window on one wall, and that was pretty much it. It's great to see. Even to be a part of the conversations. I mean, there's technology that's also being discussed, and what will it look like in the portable, and it's no longer just going to be that chalkboard on the back wall. There's going to be some technology in there as well, so it's exciting.
Yeah,
right?
there's a sense that portables are a lesser than place to learn. And as a teacher, I can tell you that I really liked being out in the portable. I could make as much noise as I wanted to out there, and I wouldn't bother the teacher next door. And there's some real positives, and so we want to ensure that students have the best learning spaces possible. So
yep, there you go.
That's the design.
Love it. Well, let's go back a little bit here. You mentioned completion rates and so on and so forth. That's always top of mind for a lot of people. Obviously important for parents. They want their kids to graduate and move on and be successful in life. The district, we're working on it, and we've jumped a lot in completion rates in the last year. And let's talk a little bit more about that. What are some of the things you talked about? The learning framework, you talked about curriculum, but let's what's going on out there in the field that's helping these kids?
Well, I think some things we've instituted over the last few years are critically important. If you read stuff on what makes school districts successful, it is one of the big factors in education is this idea of collective teacher efficacy. So if you read the literature on this, what it means is that teachers collectively know that they can make a difference to student learning. And it seems like a simple and obvious thing to state, but it's a key element in improving success rates. And a key element in building collective teacher efficacy is providing opportunity for teachers to get together, talk about teaching and learning, right? Use data that supports what they're doing. And so we have instituted professional learning time for teachers, right, in professional learning committees. So that's the real big deal that I don't think the general public truly appreciates. What a profound effect that can have on student success.
I think that in itself could be a podcast in the future, talking about PLCs. I got on my board. So it'd be great to talk about that because parents do have questions about what that time is.
Yeah, professional learning communities are a real advantage, and lots of school districts are moving in that direction if they haven't already. And I think in no small part we'll see greater student success because of it. So
I think it's a great idea. As a parent, I see a big benefit to it. I mean, teachers, like students, are always learning. And that's the time that they would take, and I mean those are great opportunities for the students in the end, right?
Yeah.
And why not have our staff continuing to learn? I think it's a fantastic piece. There's students out there that will always succeed no matter what, of course, right? But then there's also that those students that may struggle a little bit, like what you shared earlier, and on how your experience in high school was. And what I really like about our district is there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of outside of the box thinking when it comes to classroom instruction or outside of the classroom instruction. A great example is learning alternatives and how we expanded the program. Maybe tell us a little bit about what happened this past summer and the success of that program over at Woodlands.
Well, yeah, so I'm a strong advocate for working with vulnerable students, and it's interesting that ask a kindergarten teacher and she'll tell you what students we need to be concerned about and maybe pay a little more attention to and support in a different way. And I'll tell you who they are. They're students who are new to the country, students who come from low socioeconomic situations, and they're Indigenous students. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And so if we can recognize this at an early age and intervene early, that can greatly change the trajectory and life chances. And it's a challenging proposition to do that. If it were that easy, we'd be doing it. And so in the last number of years when, we've had very, little opportunity, very little money in the budget to add things to the system. We've directed it in a way that speaks to this idea of early intervention, because I think if you had an extra $1, you'd put 90 cents into early intervention. So we've created a number of focus schools that we resource a little better than other schools. And again, it's based on really socioeconomic factors, right? So when we see a school that is challenged in that way, we can add a little bit more to it. And then at the other end, when we are seeing students in secondary schools who aren't quite succeeding, then we have to intervene there as well. And well, I think the best place for a student to be is at their local neighborhood traditional type school. We have to provide some choices for students as well. So I like that we have a variety of choices, not the least of which is our distributed learning program. Students can find success there. A variety of other strange and wonderful programs that happen within high schools as well as our Career Technical Center, which takes about 100 students a year and puts them into dual credit programming. Yes. Into the trades areas. And finally, we have a couple sites for what we call learning alternatives students who, for a variety of reasons, aren't meeting with success at a more traditional school. And so we did open up at Woodlands a learning alternatives program with great success. We filled it pretty quickly. We got a great staff there. It's nice that those students have a gym there. They have a really great kitchen there. Great, as I say, great teaching staff, and some real indigenous underpinnings to those programs. And so we're really infusing this idea of indigenous ways of knowing and learning, and those programs are really, really great programs. And so I'm really proud that we've paid a little greater attention this year. We've had, because we're a growing student population, we've had a little bit more in the way of resources the last couple of years, and that we were able to resource that program.
No doubt, yeah, we're doing fantastic things. Thank you, Scott, for sharing all of that. I think that the vision, we're going in the right direction. No doubt about that. Maybe let's end off with maybe a message for the staff, students, or people in the community. Just, we're halfway through the school year. We're kicking off 2019. Is there anything out there that you'd like to share with them?
Well, how about this? I think, well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm, this is my first year in this role. I've been very fortunate in this school district to work in the jobs that I've worked in, and feel very blessed and fortunate to be in this role. And lucky to be in Nanaimo. One of our upcoming challenges is recruiting and retaining not only teachers but support staff as well. So if you're listening right now and you want to be an EA or a French immersion teacher, give me a call. But I think Nanaimo is a district that's really on the move. I've heard this from people in the past about the idea that Nanaimo's been a lighthouse district. I'm not sure what that means, but I sure like the idea of it. And we have such great people in this system, from senior management to people working in the classrooms, and people in the facilities department, bus drivers. The people I meet are just fabulous and dedicated, and I'm excited about where we're heading in this district. And as I get out into schools and talk to people, man, there's such a dedication to student success here, and I'm really proud of that. And I can tell you that our grad rates are improving. They're which is really just one measure,
of course,
but it's sort of the one that everyone holds on to. The grad rates are improving. They're going to continue to improve. I know that, and I just get a great feeling of the direction we're heading. I got to put a plug in for the new Board of Education as well. It's a really fabulous group of people who are also really dedicated to improving student learning here and improving life chances for kids. So I think it's a good time to be working in the school district.
Yes, for sure. District's vision, success for all. I think that's where we're headed. So thank you, Scott, so much. I appreciate you coming down here, spending the time. I know you're very busy, so it's nice to be able to get to know Scott a little bit. It's nice to share that. So I appreciate you coming down, and hopefully we'll have you back again. Maybe you'll bring your guitar. Maybe we'll chat a little bit more. Maybe we'll sing a little bit next time around. I think that would be a great idea. What do you think? It
sounds great. Yeah, and thank you for this opportunity, Dale. This is a real neat thing you're doing with the podcast. So.
We're having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. So this has been an NLPS Ed Talks. Thank you for coming, Scott, again. I appreciate that. Have yourself a great day.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye.